Do more.
I have another question for you. Would you revoke the visa of someone in the United States who published claims that, quote, Jews are an untrustworthy and dangerous group? Yes or no?
We will revoke the visa of anyone who's in this country as a guest who's here to stir up trouble.
Are you going to revoke the visa of somebody who made that?
Send me the case. I'll look at it. I'm looking to get crazy people out of our country.
Actually, it's not just about revoking. You actually, Secretary Rubio, excuse me, reclaiming my time.
We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
Welcome back to the channel. Today's breakdown is absolute fire. We are talking about a congressional showdown, where Secretary of State Marco Rubio went head-to-head with Democrat Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal over a revoked student visa, and turned the hearing into a constitutional smackdown, with just enough sarcasm to sting. If you love political drama served hot, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Now let's get into it.
On March 21st, 2025, the State Department approved the revocation of a student visa for Rümeysa Öztürk, a Turkish citizen who is a graduate student at Tufts University, apparently simply for writing an op-ed. According to an internal State Department memo, you took this action under your discretionary authority to revoke visas, and soon after you revoked her visa, armed and masked plainclothes officers snatched Ms. Öztürk off the street and transported her to a prison in Louisiana. Mr. Secretary, do you really think that Ms. Öztürk's op-ed results in a foreign policy consequence for the United States?
I believe that case involves someone whose visa we never would have granted had we known ahead of time.
I'm not asking you that question. I'm asking you if you think an op-ed, but that's exactly, in fact, what happened. The State Department wrote a memo concluding that you did not have sufficient grounds to revoke Ms. Öztürk's visa. There was no evidence showing that she'd engaged in any activities were a threat to national security. And in fact, in May, a federal court ordered Ms. Öztürk's release from detention, noting that the sole basis for the government's detention appeared to be the fact that she co-authored this opinion piece in the Tufts newspaper in March of 2024. Where in the Constitution does it say that the Secretary of State can override the First Amendment protections of free speech? Is there a footnote that I missed somewhere?
There's no constitutional right to a student visa.
But is there a constitutional right? Does it say somewhere that Marco Rubio gets to determine which speech is appropriate and revoke student visas based on what you think constitutes free speech?
There's a statute that says the Secretary of State gets to determine whether someone is a threat. We deny visas every day all over the world.
Do you think that the Immigration and Nationality Act trumps the Constitution of the United States, Mr. Secretary?
Well, Congress can always change the law if you want, but I'm telling you,
Mr. Secretary,
while I have the authority, I will continue to revoke the visas of these people that come here to tear this country.
You said that, Mr. Secretary. Let me reclaim my time because you are talking about revoking student visas based on what somebody says. And that means that you are trumping the legal supreme court, the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution of the United States.
No one has a right to a student visa.
Mr. Rubio, why did the administration need to use masked, armed, unidentified agents to whisk somebody off the street and deny her counsel for almost 24 hours after her arrest?
Well, you'll have to ask the agencies that did that work. I'm not responsible for that. I'm responsible for revoking the visas of these people that come to tear this country
Rubio,
apart.
I'm talking about this particular case where you revoked the student visa of a Turkish citizen who was a graduate student who wrote an op-ed that you didn't like. And suddenly you allowed for masked men to whisk her off the street. And you have multiple jobs, apparently. You're the national security advisor as well. So don't tell me it's not your job. Who snatches her off the street?
We don't do the snatching, but I can tell you we do the visa revocations.
Let me ask you about the national security consequences of people, masked men on the streets, snatching people off the streets. If these are legitimate law enforcement agents carrying out proper arrests, why are they hiding their identities?
Because then radical crazies will try to hurt them.
So you think that U.S. agents who have almost always gone without face coverings, even when they're arresting some of the country's most dangerous criminals, suddenly have so much to fear from a graduate student who wrote an op-ed that they need to be masked? Is that
law
accurate?
student was a guest in the United States on a student visa. No one's entitled to a student visa.
So you revoked her student visa based on an op-ed which trumps the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution.
Someone's coming up here to stir up problems on our campus. We're going to revoke their visa. Do more.
I have another question for you. Would you revoke the visa of someone in the United States who published claims that, quote, Jews are an untrustworthy and dangerous group? Yes or no?
We will revoke the visa of anyone who's in this country as a guest guest who's here to stir up
going to
trouble.
revoke the visa of somebody who made that?
I mean, the case. I'll look at it. I'm looking to get crazy people out of our country.
Actually, it's not just about revoking. You actually, Secretary Rubio, excuse me, reclaiming my time. Can you explain to me why the Trump administration granted refugee status to Charles Kleinhaus, the white Afrikaner who tweeted that exact statement that I just said? There's the case.
That's not a visa.
You who granted that person to enter the United States. That's a totally different process.
That's someone that applied here through a totally different process.
Secretary Rubio,
visas are a privilege.
Secretary
we deny them all the time, and we'll revoke them.
You revoked a visa based on an op-ed, and then you allowed for masked men to snatch somebody off the street.
Your time's expired. That's your claim. That's not accurate.
Jayapal came into this hearing like she was auditioning for a courtroom drama. She passionately defended a Turkish graduate student, Rümeysa Öztürk, whose student visa was revoked after she co-authored an opinion piece. Jayapal framed it as a full-blown free speech crisis, warning that America was now punishing students for their opinions. Meanwhile, Rubio sat there with that unmistakable "did she really just say that?" look. And then, Rubio finally jumped in. Boom! His first point hit like a hammer. There is no constitutional right to a student visa. Rubio made it painfully clear. Foreign nationals do not receive automatic First Amendment protections just because they're here on a student visa. Visas are a privilege, not a birthright. And then came the line that completely shifted the hearing. If the government had known this individual was coming to the U.S. to stir up campus unrest, the visa would never have been granted in the first place. Just like that, Jayapal's free speech argument started melting faster than ice cream in the sun. Jayapal waved around an internal memo like it was a smoking gun, insisting there were no legal grounds to revoke the visa. Rubio didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned in with the political equivalent of checkmate. If Congress doesn't like the law, Congress can change it. Until then, I'm enforcing it. That was basically, don't hate the player, hate the game. He reminded the room that he has the authority, and he's not afraid to use it again. Jayapal looked stunned, like she expected an apology. She didn't get one. Then things got theatrical. Jayapal demanded to know why masked agents were involved, implying something sinister. Rubio answered without missing a beat. Because radical extremists try to harm federal officers. Translation: masks on, problems down. Jayapal tried to make it sound like graduate students are being treated like dangerous criminals. Rubio pushed back hard. He revoked a visa. He didn't run a kidnapping operation. Different lane, different issue. Then came the attempted gotcha. Jayapal compared the student to another extremist who had been granted refugee status. Rubio brushed it off like lint on a suit. Different process, different law, irrelevant comparison. In plain English, that argument doesn't apply here. Next, the trap door never opened, and Rubio just kept marching forward. By the time the dust settled, Rubio made one thing crystal clear. He will continue revoking visas for foreign nationals who bring instability, extremism, or unrest to U.S. soil. Jayapal called it unconstitutional. Rubio stood his ground like the Constitution's bodyguard, whether she liked it or not. This wasn't a debate, it was a political barbecue, and Rubio brought the grill. If you enjoyed this fiery breakdown, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and stay locked in, because these congressional showdowns are only getting hotter.